All right, rotational injuries as a predictable and preventable pattern, rotational sports back injuries. So since we're in a culture that spends more time sitting in slightly squishy surfaces and driving than we do carrying things and walking, we know by default, if we live in a culture that's not primal, we are starting with a compressed spine. What happens is, even I still, with the amount of compression I still have, knowing where this sets us up for risk so that we can dedicate ourselves to reducing that risk is important. So what really made this clear to me was starting to understand the design of the spine. The spine by design is a wave. It's a wave. And this wave, regardless of whichever assumptions were made with this anatomical model, this wavy shape has certain rules for how this healthfully will transmit force, transmit shock, where it's supposed to rotate, where it's not supposed to rotate. And when we have enough glutes down here, and those glutes keep us from slouching and they power our activities, we have enough glutes here, the lumbar interlock very nicely and are super stable. And they're designed here to be able to do a certain amount of flexion and extension on the sagittal plane. They're not designed to twist. In fact, the perfect storm is if I sat with my pelvis tucked, or I have no glutes, and I either sit twisted or do I do a sudden rotational movement, is that vulnerability is going to head straight to my lower back. And then my tissues and nervous system will seize up saying, no, don't slice my nerve endings. All right, so what am I saying? What I'm saying is, when we restore the stability to the lower back with these healthy glutes, with space in the back of the pelvis, then the area that's designed to move in almost every direction, the thoracic spine, especially at the thoracolumbar joints here, like at the bottom of the rib cage and at the top of the lumbar, this is where we're supposed to be able to rotate from in almost any direction. And the lumbar, more of this, you think about it, it makes sense with the gait cycle, a little flexion extension of the lumbar. So what we need to do is shore up those glutes, shore up the lower back stability, and then restore mobility to the thoracic joints. So what happens is we get a slight compression going on because we aren't aware that our built environment has this slightly tuck. Then we go to do a rotational sport, and we might rotate because the thoracic area is tight and the lumbar is stretched, that we may just do that twisting in the lumbar. Is not designed to twist. Lumbar stability, thoracic spine mobility, cervical spine stability, base of the skull mobility. So we want to restore this wave, and in most of us, this wave is a little inverted. So Deb, what are you saying about what can I do immediately? First of all, change how you rest. That's the easiest, but it's got to be conscious. Second, do your rockers and open them up the glutes, train those glutes. Third, when you're playing a rotational sport, assume that your current nervous system response is going to be a little bit of this stress flexion, and assume that the more you could do with your hips, with the head of the femur here, the more you could do with your feet and your hips for that rotational movement, the better, because that's not going to go in your lower back. A lot of people, they get heel heavy, and then they aren't using the foot to help turn your whole body. Okay. The second thing is, be aware that when you watch some of the world's greatest players, you might see what seems like rounding. I've reviewed some videos this morning. A little rounding here is fine. The thoracolumbar joint is supposed to be able to do a lot of things, right? But what we don't want is this little bit of rounding here and then wham, wham. The perfect storm for lower back instability is where you have that tuck of the lower back and then a twist. The most insidious place this shows up well before you end up on the tennis or pickleball court is here. The most insidious place is there's a little bit of a tuck. I'm sitting in a chair or something and then I'm sort of twisting to one side. That could be that I'm driving with my coffee cup in my foot. It could be that I'm looking at my phone. So getting that spacious rooted pelvis and only twisting and turning from the thoracolumbar area or the base of my skull, that will help. So in the pickleball court, get that booty flying, let your mid back move.